Hello, everyone. Welcome to the next episode of our preseason preview, preseason power rankings series. Today, we're talking about our number 11. I would say this is another one of those rankings that really defines our list, right? Because this is not a team that a lot of people have this high. I think there are people that project them to be this good, but I don't think there's many people like us two that are really saying they can be this good. So we're going to go ahead and give them their flowers even before we see them go out there. I mean, now that we are recording when we're recording, we have the advantage for these next 11 teams that we've seen some preseason football.
Yep.
And because we've seen some preseason football, we know how good a certain very important player on this team is.
Yes.
Now, we did do these rankings before preseason was played, so that didn't really affect our ranking, but
Yes,
we kind of just
none
had...
of the preseason is affecting our ranking.
Yes, but we have had, our thoughts on a certain player impacted by the preseason or confirmed by the preseason. So now we feel far more comfortable ranking this team at 11. This is a team that hasn't been overly good since, 2018.
Nope.
Yet we have them ahead of the Miami Dolphins and some other teams that made the playoffs last year. So let's jump into it.
We kind of finished this list and we were both kind of like, this is high. And then we just kept looking and we're like, no, this is about where we think they are. Like this is a good team outside of their new, like this is a good roster.
Yes, and I think part of the reason I feel so good about them is because of this culture and specifically the head coach. Ever since Eberflus has came in, it has been upward trajectory for them. It really has.
Absolutely.
And maybe they didn't do the DeMeco Ryans, Texans, instant playoff team type of thing. But their quarterback play, I know he made some plays, but Justin Fields wasn't very good at executing, right?
No,
not at all.
And we saw a little bit of that in the preseason in the Steelers again.
And that made it seem like the Bears were far worse than they truly were. The fact is, you look at the second half of last year, and specifically that defense, it was one of the best defenses in football at the end of last year.
Made the playoffs. People don't realize
with
this team
Justin
almost
Fields.
made the playoffs
with Justin Fields.
Awful quarterback.
Yeah, and now they suddenly have one of the best receiver trios, maybe the best receiver trio in football.
Maybe the best.
Yeah, probably the best, honestly. And then the offensive line is only going to be improving. They are young in a lot of different areas. They added some players. Caleb Williams is a huge addition as a quarterback at the most important position. I mean, there's a lot to be positive.
I mean, is this maybe the best secondary in football? Is it, or it's close?
Yeah, I feel pretty good saying that. I mean, it's a great secondary.
It's
with a defensive-minded head coach who I think has done a great job with this culture, right? Like I said, upward trajectory, and there's no reason to think that it's slowing down. It is only getting further and further up. They're steadily improving constantly. And like I said, they're not the Texans, right? It isn't instantaneous, but last year was a step up. Now they're taking another step up. Because what they were at the end of last year was a very impressive team that would be ranked around this area. Now they only improved since then. That's what I like about this culture, the constant improvement under a Matt Eberflus.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. And again, and they also, it wasn't just they moved off a new quarterback. The team also moved off of an offensive coordinator that, like Luke Getsy, I think had a pretty hard job dealing with Fields, but
he did.
Also just not a very creative dude.
You would see some play calls that are just like, what's going on there?
And it would almost be receivers in the same place.
Yes.
You've got routes. Yeah, it's just
and it seemed like some of that was poor coaching of the players, less than it was play calling.
Like it didn't seem like it was the play call. It seemed like the players just kind of didn't know what they were doing out there.
Exactly. And I blame Getsy. It seems like it was poorly communicated. Although there were a couple of play calls that were just like, what the hell is going on there? Like, and it's hard to tell if that's on the players or if that's on the coaches. I think both of us agree that Getsy should take the blame for it. And we are blaming Getsy. That's part of the reason we have them this high.
Yep. But at the same time, I do also think Justin Fields made his job a little hard.
Yes,
because
absolutely.
His style of offense isn't something Fields is good at.
Yes.
Now, does that mean he should have adapted to Fields more? Absolutely. But I digress. His style of offense, the way he wants to be played, Aiden O'Connell is better at running it than Justin Fields is. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And Eberflus is a defensive-minded guy. Despite that, he impresses me because of how well he coaches his guys up. He's kind of like the opposite of what we saw with that offense, right?
Yeah.
He's a good culture guy because he's so traditional in terms of everyone do their job, and he wants that for both their offense and the defense. That's why they brought in a new offensive coordinator who I don't love. I don't know how you feel about Shane Waldron.
I'm in the same boat. I really liked his like the film the Seahawks put out in 2022 when he was calling.
Mm-hmm.
But then you have Canales leave over to the Bucks, and then you have Shane Waldron alone as the OC. And last year, I didn't think he did a very good job, truthfully.
Yeah. However, he is someone that we know can do it. He is someone that we know can call plays at an NFL level. We didn't feel that certain with Getsy. We've seen him do it, Shane Waldron. And I think that's the big advantage of having him around. Waldron likes his 2 and 3 tight end sets. He does. He loves it. I wouldn't say that's his base personnel, but that's his go-to change-up pitch. I find it interesting how someone that likes heavy formations that much doesn't really like to run the ball. It is pretty confusing, right? I don't really get it. Because not like it's 12 personnel, but with a jumbo slot. No, it's 12 personnel with 2 tight ends. 1 tight end on each side next to each tackle. So that doesn't really make sense to me, but that's just his style. I guess it's a West Coast scheme. My issue is just a lack of identity on the offensive side of the ball. Like, what is his go-to, right? What does he like to do? He likes 12 personnel and 13 personnel more than other people.
Ends,
yeah, he likes it more than other people, but I wouldn't say that's like his go-to.
Action.
Yeah, he likes, sure, but I find it interesting. You like play action, but you're not trying to run the ball. It's really
You're
strange.
not trying to run the ball, exactly.
Yeah, and like the scheme works.
He likes the screens. I think he's a pretty decent screen guy.
Yeah.
I mean, but that's about it.
I question how many RPOs are going to be here because that was kind of what that offense was supposed to be built around last year. And Waldron, I wouldn't say he hates RPOs, but it's not really like a go-to of his. So that should be interesting seeing how that goes. But it's not like there's much of continuity with this offense either. Like, there's not guys who have been here for a long time, so maybe changing up that scheme a lot isn't a big deal, right?
Right.
I don't hate Waldron. I just find him to be a very uninspiring coordinator.
I think it is an upgrade.
It's an upgrade. Because, like I said, we know he could call plays, but a lot of the stuff that makes a great offensive coordinator, he just doesn't have. He's kind of just like, a bridge OC, kind of. He could get it done.
You're saying, absolutely.
Yeah. He could get it done, but that's really all I could say. He could call plays at an NFL level. That's really about it.
Mm-hmm. Then we move to Caleb Williams, the new guy in town, first overall pick in this year's draft. Some people hailed him as the greatest QB prospect they've ever seen, the next Mahomes. Some people not quite as high. Neither of us are on the extreme range of anything when it comes to Caleb, but I definitely liked him more than you did. But you also weren't as high in this quarterback class as a whole as a lot of other people were.
Yes. Yeah. I acknowledge. I want to get the negative out of the way.
Yes.
I feel like the issue with people evaluating Caleb is I feel like people kind of ignore the clear red flags in terms of how he plays. I'm not calling him bad, but I am saying there's a lot of, can that really work in the NFL when you watch his tape? There's a lot of, he's passing up the open man to try and make a big play happen. A lot of people say, because, USC was so bad and this and that. And sure, but there were examples when the game was close, when even they had a lead, and it's like, you can't throw that ball. Sometimes he would be punished for it, other times he wouldn't, right? When it went well, it was going well. When it went poorly, it was going poorly, all right? And for every win they had, it was 100% Caleb Williams. I'm not denying that. And a lot of the losses they have weren't on Caleb Williams, but did he really help them deal with those issues when they lost? No, I don't think so. There are times where Caleb kind of makes a bad day worse. All right? It is something. And I think as he matures as a passer, as he gets more adept to the NFL and understands that he can trust his defense, that he can trust his receivers, that he can trust his offensive line, I think that's when we'll see Caleb develop into this stud. But this idea that he's like an Andrew Luck, a Trevor Lawrence caliber prospect, exactly. I find to be insane.
Right. I had him more on the Kyler Murray level of prospect is where I had him about. on just, not quite the greatest quarterbacks we've ever seen, but Kyler was a damn good prospect coming out, right? But
Yes.
he had his issues, his concerns, his play style, right? And that's what I saw with Caleb. But there's also, you do get those bad plays, but there's a reason people were giving him Mahomes comps.
There is a world where he is Patrick Mahomes. There is a world where this is the greatest quarterback in NFL history. Like, that is not exaggeration. That is the legitimate, type of talent we are talking about here. There is a world where this is the best quarterback ever. Not just best in Bears history. That's a very low bar.
That's a low bar. He might do that this year, dude.
Yeah, exactly. This year alone, he might be the best Bears quarterback ever. But yeah, he's a very interesting prospect because that upside is so high. Like, he can be an unreal quarterback. It's just a question of, can you get him a little bit more NFL? Can you take away the hero ball until it's needed? Or is the hero ball just his game? Will he be like Trevor Lawrence, who, kind of had these red flags in college, but we all undermined them, right? Will he be like Trevor Lawrence, where he's constantly trying to make something out of nothing? Instead of taking the 5-yard pass, he tries to make a 50-yard play happen and ends up throwing a pick, right? Is that going to be his game? Or is he going to be more like a Patrick Mahomes, where he plays, I don't want to say conservative, but he plays normal NFL football. He plays within the structure of the offense until it's 3rd and long. And then you need a Mahomes play. He can make some Mahomes magic. He is Caleb Williams. It might be Caleb magic next, right? That's very real.
And but even you acknowledge there was this stigma by a lot of Caleb Williams haters that he couldn't play from the pocket. Could not play that was untrue. Definitely, I disagree. I think he showed enough from the pocket.
I wouldn't say that it's impossible. Okay, yeah, you're right. He definitely can. It's just you do have to teach him to want to.
Yeah.
That's my issue.
I love that his first NFL completion is him sitting in the pocket on 3rd and long and delivering a strike on a 3rd and 12.
Exactly. And
yes.
That is exactly what I need to see. That is exactly what I want to see from him. Right?
And then we might as well touch on his preseason. He looked good in his debut. He looked really
absolutely
good. outside of I just posted a film review on it on my TikTok if anybody wants to go see that. But outside of an almost pick that was going to be called back by a holding penalty on the DB anyway, he had a really nice day. Great ball placement outside the run, comfortable in the pocket, read the defense well. It was nice to see against not only a Bills defense, but it was the Bills' first team defense. This wasn't just backups against backups. This was first team against first team. Now, It was vanilla, of course. Teams aren't going to throw everything out there at the start, but look good.
Yeah, like I said, right? These issues are fixable, right? Very fixable. And if you can fix them, if Caleb is willing to put in the work to fix it, this is a phenomenal quarterback. It's just there's also a world where he's a Zach Wilson. There is. That's the reality. There is a world.
I don't know if there's a word with there, just because I think the thing that gives him a higher floor than maybe someone like that is his pocket presence. I thought was great in college, and I think it's something that's going to still be good in the NFL. He's shown it. And that alone makes him better than Zach Wilson. But I do agree. There's a world where he depends too much on playing out of structure. And you can't succeed in the NFL when all you're doing is playing out of structure. Absolutely.
But yes, right? There's a lot of stuff with Caleb that, you're positive about. It's just fixing up the little stuff, right? Yeah. And it's hard to tell if that little stuff can be fixed or if that's just how he plays. As of right now, it seems like it can be fixed. That's a very good thing, right?
And then behind him, we have, Hall of Fame game MVP, future of the league, Brett Ripien. And he's not even the back. He might win the backup job just because of what he did off the Hall of Fame game. But Tyson Bagent is the backup quarterback right now. He started some games for the Bears last year, and for a D3 guy, I believe he was, or was he D2? I don't remember. Either way, looked fine. He's an all right backup quarterback to have.
Yeah, fun story.
Very fun story. Yes.
But now we move over to this receiver core, and I think that's where this is awesome. This is where That right there, what I said last, that guy that I just said could be the greatest of all time at the most important position in the sport, that is the most negative I'm going to be. Besides the O-line. That is the most negative that I'm going to be throughout this entire episode. Like I said, except the O-line. But, man, this receiver core, nothing bad to say.
So good,
nothing
man.
bad to say. I mean, I want to start with who I think will be the new, from a numbers standpoint, their best guy. I think that's going to be DJ Moore.
Yes,
if I were
absolutely.
to make that prediction, right?
If I were to make a prediction, I'd say the same. DJ Moore is a 1,000-yard guy with some of the worst quarterback play we've ever seen, man.
Exactly.
Throughout his entire career, he's had 1 year of a good Cam Newton. After that, it was bad.
Imagine if Terry McLaurin finally got the great quarterback play, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of what we're seeing here with DJ Moore, because we've seen what he could do with poor quarterback play. Now, he gets to really show off that route running, that playmaking ability, that ability after the catch. Moore is one of the most well-rounded receivers in the sport because he could do all of that. He could run the full route tree at a high level. He consistently catches the ball. He makes plays after the catch. He's able to win contested catches. Like, what do you want out of a receiver that he doesn't do? I don't think there is anything. He is at least good at everything. Some things he's even great. Very well-rounded receiver that can be used in a lot of ways.
Absolutely, and I really expect him to play, kind of the Z role in this offense, and that's not us saying he's not going to be the number one receiver. He's not playing the X, and that's because I think the X is more than likely going to be Rome Odunze, the rookie they just drafted out of Washington.
I think everyone is lining up all over.
So I was going to say, all of these guys are good enough to where you can interchange them anywhere. Mm-hmm. I'm just talking about skill set wise. This is if I were to pick a spot for them to stay, which they won't. DJ Moore is probably playing the Z. Odunze is probably playing the X, right? And, I mean, I loved Odunze. Odunze was my wide receiver, too. I know he's your 4, right?
Yeah, and don't get me wrong. Me having him as 4 isn't me being negative about him. I love Odunze, one of my favorite receiver prospects I've ever watched. It was just a stacked receiver class. And I think the reason the Bears were able to get him at 9 was because of how stacked this receiver class was, right?
Yes.
Like, the reality is, in most draft classes, this is the best receiver.
Oh, easily, yeah.
Right? He's a stud. He's a stud. Ability to catch the ball through contact is amazing. And the route running, really, really nuanced guy. You want to talk about someone, I talk about it a lot. It's what I talked about with the Devontae Adams. On third down, right, you need to have a quarterback stare down one guy on a slant route. It's 3rd and 5 or whatever. Who's going to get the separation? Who's going to make the play? You look at all 3 of these receivers. All 3 of them are very good. Odunze might be a rookie, but I trust him the most in that scenario.
He is, take it like this. The average contested catch rate for the elite contested catch guys in the NFL is 50%, 45 to 50%. Odunze's contested catch rate in college was 80%. That is a ridiculous stat, dude. That is ridiculous. And Again, nuanced route runner, a guy who might be the best. He's still got a whole another year in college, but one of the best corner prospects I've ever watched in Will Johnson on Michigan. Rome Odunze was giving him fits in that national championship game. Like in man coverage, Odunze was tossing. It was brutal sometimes. But yeah, the Bears get an absolute steal here. This is somebody who is going to keep developing into a number 1 receiver alongside with his rookie quarterback. I mean, just fantastic.
Yeah,
but out of the slot, you get the best slot receiver in football, probably. Amon-Ra St. Brown is still there, but Keenan Allen's a stud, man. Yeah. Keenan Allen's a stud. Is he as explosive as he used to be? No. Is he the quarterback's best friend still? Yes, absolutely.
He's the wide receiver 3. Here's the thing, right? My biggest issue with Keenan Allen is, in terms of usage, he is limited, right? If you're against man coverage, he isn't going to do much. But the fact that you have someone that whenever you see those linebackers drop back, right, into a zone, and you know it's zone coverage, you could look his way and consistently know he's open every single time. It doesn't matter how old he is. He is so nuanced. As him and Travis Kelce are the 2 players in the NFL that I think have the best feel for zone coverage in the entire league. Those two. Keenan Allen and Travis Kelce. Those are the two. Keenan
one of
Allen
my-
is their wide receiver 3. That is such a nice asset to have as that third option. Whether that's
Especially
from the
as a
slot
rookie.
or outside. Because he can
When
do
you-
both.
When you have someone as reliable as Allen, that's just immeasurably valuable as a rookie. Like to
Yes.
have that type of thing.
Exactly.
And one of my favorite plays to tell your point of just feeling zone. There's a play against the Vikings. It was like Tripp's right or whatever. He's in the slot. And he's looking at Herbert before the play. He has his arms up. Clearly does not know what play is being run. So he just ends up running straight, noticing it's like cover 3, and then settling in a zone. Has no idea what play he's supposed to run and gets the ball anyway. And it's like a first down. And I'm
He gets the
ridiculous.
Troy Polamalu treatment, but on offense.
Yes,
where he just gets to do whatever he wants, and it works, It doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. There's a play for the other 10 players. For him, it's just settle against zone. That's all it is.
They're like, when you're playing with your friends at lunch or, you're like, get open. That's what they tell Keenan Allen.
Yeah. And when it's not man, he does it. When it is man, he still has a very large catch radius, which is really nice. Like like you said, quarterback's best friend. Not just because he settles versus zone, but also because you throw an inaccurate ball, he's reaching out, making that grab. He's really consistent in that way. Put reliable in the dictionary, you have Keenan Allen. I really like how you use that word because that was the perfect description there.
Right.
Now, if there was an issue with this receiver core, I would say that it isn't overly deep.
No.
That's the big thing here. Tyler Scott, I guess.
He's fast.
He's a fast gadget guy.
So is Velus Jones.
Yeah, but Velus Jones is a special teamer, and that's all. Like
they play him a running back right now. He's lining
that's always a good sign. He's getting the Cordell Patterson treatment. And then I mean, there isn't Dante Pettis, right? He's someone who is a veteran, right? He's been doing it for a while. He's a legitimate receiver, and Colin Johnson. We want to talk about preseason. He balled out. Right?
Yep,
he balled
absolutely.
out, and he's been good for a while. He just hasn't really gotten the volume until that one preseason game. But yeah, no, there isn't much to write home about in terms of depth. But they have that. I think, have the best starting 3 in the NFL.
Yeah, I would happen to agree. And then we move over to the tight end room, because it's going to be important, we think, in Shane Watcher's offense, Duke tight ends. So with Cole Kmet. And Cole Kmet's kind of a divisive player. There's a lot of opinions on where he is in terms of how good he is as a tight end. I like to call him the Andy Dalton of tight ends. I think he is, the Dalton scale, where they're either like you're good, and then past Dalton, it's not that great. That's kind of where I have Cole Kmet. I think he is.
Yeah, I mean,
good. I think he's.
I think it's. I don't know. I think that's making the bar a little bit too high for those other tight ends, man. Because I'm not gonna act like Cole Kmet is like this extreme, unreal tight end. But I mean, as a safety valve, you really like him, and I think he's a good blocker too, right? He does the traditional tight end stuff. There's a lot of Jake Ferguson's, like true traditional tight ends, right? And he's one of the best traditional inline tight ends that do that stereotypical, not great separator. But, they could settle versus zone. They're a big target. They win at the catch point. They block well. Like, he's one of those guys, and he's very consistent with it. Just a reliable guy.
And then next to him, you have Gerald Everett, who's much more of that receiving threat tight end. The guy you don't want him blocking. You want him running out there, running routes. And I think that's a nice little duo to have. Someone who can play that big slot and someone like Cole Kmet, who I'd rather have as the traditional Y.
And Everett's a big play threat. Right, from the tight end position. He's a big play threat because
not only down the field, but after the catch.
Yes, exactly. The speed there, even at his age, like it isn't what it used to be, but the speed is really threatening. He's able to separate because of his route running ability. Like, he's a nice target to have, once again. He reminds me a lot of like a Jonnu Smith, kind of.
Yeah, I think that's exactly the kind of role that he's in there.
And then they also have a nice blocker in Mercedes Lewis. Right.
His 10,000th year in the league. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But he's a good blocker, right? Even at his age, he's a big guy who might catch a pass or two throughout the season, but he really is like a 6th offensive lineman that you put out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we move to these running backs, and
Yeah, I mean, I
you
wanted to
wanna?
mention Kari with the fullbacks.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
because with the tight ends, he's someone who we've seen line up at tight end for them, but it seems like Waldron is really passionate about using him as like a fullback. So far, again, this is the advantage we have now that we've seen preseason film. He has gotten reps as a fullback. Not the best utility guy. However, good blocker, good lead blocker. And I think that's what he's going to bring to the table here. When the offensive line, again, I've made it decently vocal so far, it isn't a unit I trust an overwhelming amount. It is helpful to have someone like Kari who could lead block and wipe out a linebacker, you know.
Yeah. Does a blasting game get the David Miller stamp of approval?
Yes, absolutely. He's a Bears
Absolutely.
fullback. What do you think the answer to that is?
Okay,
Yeah.
but let's move to these running backs. And there's a guy who's the lead guy in this room, who I don't think should probably be the lead. I'm not a big DeAndre Swift guy, but they paid him, so he's gonna get his reps. DeAndre Swift has had the benefit of playing behind two of the best offensive lines in football for the last 4 years, and he keeps tricking people into giving him money.
Yeah. Listen, third down, I like him. You know, he catches
He's an
passes.
athlete, man.
He
He can
makes
make
plays
people
after the catch. He does. And he has the vision is fine, right?
I think it's really easy to have good vision when you're getting holes like
Yeah,
that. But
that's fair.
I
I guess
think there's even
the,
times where the hole's there and he doesn't see it, and he just tries to
I'll
bounce
say
it
this.
outside.
He doesn't ram his head into a hole that isn't there.
Right.
He's patient. He lets blocks develop. I guess that's more of what I mean than the vision.
Sure. Yeah.
With that said, do I like him relative to what he's being paid as this lead back? No. And they have better guys for that. I like Khalil Herbert more. I
I
like
like Roshan Johnson.
Roshan Johnson. Thank
I'm
you.
a huge
We're on the same
Roshan
page
Johnson
there.
guy.
I like Roshan Johnson more. There's a lot that leaves me like, this is you paid this guy for what reason, right? Because they paid him big money. They didn't pay him to
This
be
is
this
a
third
big
down
contract.
guy. Yeah. Also, as a third down guy, Khalil Herbert's pretty good. As a
Yes,
third down
he's
back,
really
so
good.
it leaves you again saying,
Travis Homer, if you want a pass blocker, Travis Homer's
yeah.
gonna do it for you.
And again, it leaves you saying, why? Why did you pay DeAndre Swift? Did you just have money and you decided to spend it for no reason? Like, what's going on?
They kind of did. They
But
kind of did.
if I just hope that if that's the case, the money isn't the reason he's the starter. You know, sadly, it's the NFL, so it probably
And it will
is.
be.
Yeah, but this is still a good running back room because of the other guys they have. Love
Yes.
Roshan, just a really good runner. Shoulder
Downhill
down,
runner.
yeah,
Yeah.
shoulder down, run through the gap. You know, he makes plays in that way. He gets the tough yardage. And then Khalil Herbert, also a nice receiver out of the backfield, more of a scat guy in
Yeah,
that way.
definitely.
But the thing is, his role is already filled by Swift, sadly.
Yep.
And then,
And
do
then
you
we move
want
to
to
this
talk about
offensive-
Travis Homer? I mean,
I already mentioned it.
Yeah, you mentioned it.
He's
Good
a good
pass blocker.
He's here to play special teams and to pass block on third down.
Yes,
That is what
exactly.
Travis Homer
And that's his game. But now we get to the offensive line, which now is the reason that a lot of people see this team and they say, how is it not lower? Because the offensive line, I'm not going to say it's awful. It's not good. It isn't good.
not,
And
yeah.
for a team that is in the top 12, you would expect for a unit as important as the offensive line to be better than this. Right. And yes, did Justin Fields make it look worse because his pocket presence was awful? Absolutely. But were there reps where Justin Fields really didn't have a shot to do anything because the
Absolutely.
O-line was that bad? Yes. Again,
Yes.
not the worst offensive line in the league, but definitely the worst in the top 15.
I completely agree with you.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll start with the bright spots, at least in my opinion. The
Yeah.
tackle duo. I think the tackle duo is really nice.
Yes. Yes, I agree. I think Darnell Wright was impressive for a rookie, but there
Yes.
were some games where it was like, man, like Rashawn Gary was kind of bullying him. But Rashawn Gary.
Rashawn Gary is very underrated.
Yeah,
as we'll see
that's
very
fair.
soon.
That's fair.
Rashawn Gary, the way he's been used these last 2-3 years is coaching malpractice. Again,
That's
he
true.
who shall not be named is no longer working there. Okay, so he should show some more people
Yeah,
this year.
and that's true, right? Uh, with that said, I do want to say Darnell Wright was good, run blocking especially.
Yeah.
Really, really good as a run blocker. As a pass blocker, there were games where, like I said, he got bullied a little bit, but still, he's a fine pass blocker considering he's coming from his rookie year as this kind of raw prospect.
Yeah.
Then the other tackle in Braxton Jones, he's someone you could get out in space, which is nice, and he'll do some damage in that way. But overall, I see him as kind of like this, he's in that
Yeah,
Deion Dawkins area,
I completely
which is
agree.
perfectly
And
fine.
a lot of teams will absolutely take a team
Yes.
of Dawkins at left tackle.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
exactly. Like, he's a good player, consistently does his job. Again, he can get beat by some of the best edges in the league, but still just overall a good player, consistent player. And he's still young. He could be better than a Deion Dawkins, in theory. Like, he's young.
Absolutely.
But then the interior is where I get worried.
Absolutely. Now, I'm going to start with the one that I have a little more faith in than the other two, and that's Tevin Jenkins. At least as a run blocker,
Yeah.
Tevin Jenkins
Okay.
is really good.
Yeah,
He's a piece
Tevin
of-
Jenkins as a run blocker is
is a
good.
very good
Yes.
run blocker.
Yes, absolutely.
Now, as a pass blocker,
Yeah.
he's not good.
Yes.
Right? And
Precisely.
you're hoping he can improve on that, right?
Yeah.
You're hoping. However, that's just the case as of right now. He's like City
Mm-hmm.
So, except I'd take him over City So because he is that good of a run blocker.
And
You know what I mean?
yeah, but in terms of pass blocking, he is about as bad as a City. So
I would agree.
yeah,
I would agree.
you're gonna notice we talk a lot about this. Teams have types at certain positions. Their type is run blockers. It's similar to Atlanta, right? The only difference is they're not as strictly inside zone, inside zone, inside zone. They run a little bit of everything here, and these guys kind of specialize in everything. Ryan Bates, this is the new addition. He wasn't with the team last year.
Played with the Bills.
Yeah, played with the Bills. He's a player.
He's seen a lot. He's
Yeah.
played a lot of football.
Yes.
Right. He's a
And I
veteran.
think that's definitely what he's bringing to the table on a younger offensive line, for sure.
Not only a younger offensive line, but to help a young rookie quarterback as well.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that's the big asset that a Nate Davis brings to the table. Nothing overwhelming as either a run blocker or a pass blocker. But I would say he isn't a liability. At least he hasn't been yet. He's mainly there because of what he brings to the game up here.
And you said Nate Davis. I think you meant Ryan Bates.
Oh, Ryan Bates is who I meant. Sorry. Thank you very much.
Now we
Yeah.
get to Nate Davis, who
Yeah.
I think is kind of close to a lot. I don't like Nate Davis. I don't think he's
Which
very
sucks because they brought him in, and I was optimistic. I'm not going to lie. Out of
He
Tennessee.
was good at Tennessee.
Yeah.
He was good at Tennessee.
And I don't know what happened. Something must have changed because he wasn't good with Chicago.
No.
He really just wasn't. And again, he was supposed to be one of the few older players that you're like, oh yeah, I'm optimistic about him. I'm not. And if they had a better guard option, I wouldn't be surprised if he got benched. The only problem is, I look at this
Absolutely.
depth, it's about
no
as
depth.
bad as their starting group.
Yeah, it's a bad depth. It's
Mm-hmm.
bad depth along the entire line. You're a tackle away from this going from it's not awful, but it's not great to this is bad.
The only thing is Amagaji, if he comes back from injury and he's fine, right? I could see him coming in as a tackle and being good. I actually really like Amagaji. Really like. But he does come from Yale, where it's like,
Not exactly Nick.
yeah, not a football school. But he did pass the, if you
He
play
was-
at a smaller school, you better dominate. He passed that
Yeah,
test.
yeah, he
Right.
dominated it.
Yeah. So I'm excited to see him if he comes back. I don't know how severe his injury is, but he is supposed to miss time as of right now. The only thing is tackle is kind of where they're already set. So maybe they bump someone inside. I don't really know.
And if they did, it'd have to be probably Darnell Wright because Jones isn't big enough. He's
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
310.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So
But yeah, that's how I look at this. Mercedes Lewis, he could come in at tackle.
hey, they need him to do something, man.
Yeah. But yeah, not a very deep O-line. It tends to be a theme with this team. Depth, they are a young team, and because of that, depth, it's a struggle. It's a struggle because they just finished solidifying their starting lineup. Depth is tough, right?
Yeah.
Now, how much will that hurt them? That's to be determined. But still, an offense I feel very confident of, in spite of that interior offensive line. In
Totally.
spite of it. Now, tell me, offensive player of the year, who do you have?
I think it's going to be Caleb Williams. I'm sold on it. I think Caleb's going to have a really good year. I think he will be the best Bears quarterback we've ever seen year one.
Yeah,
I think
mean,
that's my opinion.
I could see that being the world we live in. I could, but again, with how much I've said about Caleb, which people act like it's. Here's the thing: people act like what I say about Caleb is negative just because it's more negative than other people. All right.
Right.
I'm more negative than other people. I don't think Caleb Williams is an awful quarterback. I just don't think he's quite as good as people think. Right?
Right.
However, there is a world where the pieces come together. He doesn't make the rookie mistakes I expect him to, and then he ends up being one of the best quarterbacks in football year one.
Yeah.
That being said, I'm giving DJ Moore my offensive player of the year spot.
Totally
right
fine. You know, finally getting him a quarterback should absolutely explode.
Exactly. That's precisely what I'm heading at right here. Offensive rookie of the year.
Yeah, Caleb Williams.
This is even I'm saying Caleb here. Right? The biggest Caleb hater on Twitter is saying Caleb Williams here. Now, X Factor or 12th man. Do you have either here?
I almost made my X Factor Caleb Williams.
I made my X Factor Caleb Williams.
Yeah, my X Factor for me, I think I have to go with Caleb Williams. I didn't want to do 3 Caleb Williams awards, but I think I have to.
Yeah, Caleb is my X Factor because, like I said, he can be one of the best quarterbacks in football. If that's the case, this team could win a Super Bowl, right? I could see this being the first rookie quarterback to win a Super Bowl. I definitely could. Like, again, do I think it's as surefire as other people? I'm a broken record, I know. No, I don't think it's as surefire as other people. However, there is a world, and it's a realistic world, especially after you see that preseason game.
Yes.
Then, do you have 12th man on the side or no?
Yeah, my 12th man is going to be Kiari Blasingame.
Okay, so we have the same exact list here. Because I look at it, the interior offensive line being what it is, you want someone that can really pave the way, make up for Nate Davis not being overly great. Kari can be that guy, and I think Waldron's 2 tight end, 3 tight end sets, I think this is their tight end too. And he's going to line up at fullback. That's what I'm expecting here. Very good player. Very good blocker, more than anything, Kari Blasingame is. Now, defense. This is where we have fun. This is where we get into the reason that I expect this team to really be this good. You know, I love the receiver core, and I think they'll be a good offense, but the defense is going to be one of the best in football. I am purely expecting it. As long as guys don't go down. Right?
Yeah.
The scheme, 4-2-5, that is what Eberflus likes. That's what he's going to stick to.
4-2-5 to 4-3. He does run that 4-3 sometimes, but the reason why, like, his traditional is more of a 4-3. However, he runs a lot of that nickel 4-2-5 because they have a really good.
And that's exactly what it was in Indianapolis too.
Yeah.
I think he wants to do 4-3, but he just keeps ending up with these spectacular nickels.
Yes.
So exactly. It's like, okay, I guess I gotta. And you know what? That's perfectly fine because a lot of teams run a lot of 11 personnel.
Yep.
It was weird, though, because Eberflus, we all thought, was this soft zone guy, but then they brought in Montez Sweat, and all of a sudden they were fine running this, more man-centered defense.
And that's because, it's hard to cover a guy for 4 seconds when you're a corner in man coverage.
Yep.
It's ridiculously difficult. With the guy getting an actual edge rusher, a guy who can actually push the pocket, makes everybody's job a little easier.
Yes, exactly. They still will run soft zone. It was really cover 3 for the most part. They have Jalen Johnson, great corner room. But then on top of that, they'll bring in a Jaquan Brisker as that strong safety, box safety type of guy. And that also allows them to run more 4-2-5 because he almost is that next inside linebacker. And because of that, they like to run their one-high stuff because Brisker is one of the best boxes in the league. Right? That's the reality. And because of that, they run a lot of one-high. Last year, that was Eddie Jackson, who wasn't too good. But now they got Kevin Byard to really fill in that role for them.
Well, also not that good. But again, we're talking one high in this sign of defense. They're not doing a whole lot anyway. Truthfully. Mm-hmm. They're just covering grass, and you hope he does it well when he needs to.
Yeah.
But I do think he's living a little bit off name value, especially at this point
Do
in his
you?
career.
Well, I
I
mean,
do.
with
Kevin
Philly,
Byard,
he was bad. With Philly, the film
Philly
was
was
bad.
bad.
It was
Philly
bad.
was
But
bad.
also, everyone was bad in Philly last year. That's why I give him the benefit of the doubt here.
Right.
He still is a smart safety who has a lot of experience in these zone-heavy teams. So maybe Eberflus does go back to the zone-heavy stuff.
Maybe.
No matter what, I'm expecting 4-2-5, one high. That is what I'm expecting. It's just a question: is it zone-heavy, zone cover 3 mainly, or is it going to be man cover 1? Or is it going to be a mix? I'm probably expecting the mix. Maybe leaning a little bit more towards man because how many wide receivers do you really trust to beat this corner trio in man to man?
I completely agree with you.
Yeah. But I think they're going to run both just because that is Eberflus's bread and butter. Whether it should be or not, that's the question.
Do you want to start with the highlight of this secondary, or do you want to go to the defensive line and work our way back to him?
Secondary, I want to start with, but don't get it twisted. It's a good front too. Just let that be known, right? It's not like, we're going to start with the positive so we could cover up the negative. No,
No, it's
both
more
are really
just
good.
this secondary is really good, best in football good.
Yeah. We mentioned Byard earlier. We kind of had our conversation about him. He's still a veteran, right? That's what he's bringing to the table here. And he is still rangy. It's just, once again, last year was bad. But Matt Patricia was also the defensive coordinator, so him and the guy from the Saints, like it was not a very good coaching group. Everyone looked bad last year, so I'm willing to kind of sweep that under the rug, look back to the Kevin Byard of like a 2022, and say, still older guy, but fine, fine as like a rangy safety up top.
Right.
And then we got Jaquan Brisker as the strong safety. I already had a little bit of my
one of the best box safeties.
Yes.
Yeah, one of the best box safeties in football, man.
Mm-hmm. He lays the wood and he's able to cover well too. Like he's a really good player.
Guy.
Yeah.
I remember watching him at Penn State, man. There was a game, I forget what game it was, but he just every time that ball was targeted over the middle of the field, he was there. And he continues to do that in the NFL.
Yep.
He just lays the wood going over the middle, and people don't want to target. People are scared to catch balls over the middle because of him, man.
Yeah. And another thing with Brisker too that he really offers, this is a really tough team to run screens against. Like even when they're in zone, you can't run screens on them because he's really good at getting past blocks, and then he gets to the wide receiver because he's so instinctive. He gets to whoever's supposed to catch the screen pass before they get the ball, and he just lays them out before they're able to make the catch. Right? He's so impressive.
And he's not the only guy who does that either.
Yeah.
Because their nickel, Kyler Gordon, does the same thing. Kyler Gordon is one of the most underappreciated players in football. I did a film review on him last year during a primetime game, man. He is fantastic. He's really, really good at playing nickel.
Yep.
As a run defender, as a coverage guy, he's the whole package.
And listen, I've been very, very vocal about how I feel about slot corner, nickel corner, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, we both have, yep.
I think that is the toughest position to play in the secondary, right?
Not only the toughest, but it's maybe the most important position in the secondary.
Exactly. Yeah, especially if you're running base nickel, right? They have to be able to play like a second inside linebacker. They do. And, it helps they have Jaquan Brisker out there. Or, sorry, a third inside linebacker. It helps that they have Jaquan Brisker out there. But, what about the other side, right? Teams are running so much outside zone with all these Shanahan disciples. You got to have corners that can tackle. And, my Lord, can Kyler Gordon do it. While also being a great coverage guy, too.
Yep.
And then you have two very, very good outside corners also.
Let's start with Tyreek Stevenson. He was the CB2 on this team. But he was a rookie. He was one of the best rookie corners in a very stacked rookie corner class last year.
Yeah.
He was fantastic coming out of Miami.
I want to give my reverse victory lap here. I thought he was not going to be very good. Right?
Really?
I was not big on him. I liked him as a press man guy. I didn't think he had ability beyond that. I was really wrong. Clearly. Because he runs zone just fine. And my Lord, he could play off man. He could play press man. I knew he could play press man. I did not know he could play it that well.
Yeah.
I really didn't. He is really astoundingly good as as this physical man corner while also being very capable in off man and zone.
Who's only getting better heading into year 2. Right?
Exactly.
Like now he gets a year of experience under his belt in this defense and as a player. Whew. Then you get to Jalen Johnson, who this is a top 3 corner in football. Might have been. I don't think he was best corner in football last year. I still think that was Sauce, but Jalen Johnson was right behind him. Jalen Johnson was right behind him, man.
And he was someone who has been great for so long now. So long. Yeah. And now he finally had that breakout where he elevates himself into that, Sauce, L'Jarius Sneed tier of like elite cornerback.
And it's not just man. Oh, he's so instinctive. He's so instinctive in zone. People don't target his side of the field in zone because of how instinctive he is. That's where he gets a lot of his picks, man.
I would lean if you were asking me to say, is he better in zone or man? I would say zone. Even though I expect it to be a man team, he's also very good at man. Don't get me wrong.
So good at man.
But zone is what he's been doing his entire career. And I think he only took that step up this year because now they had that mix. And now it's like, oh, what are they doing? Is he going to be a zone defender? Am I not allowed to throw out that side of the field? Or can I throw to the other guy right near him? And teams don't know. And that's why he's able to make picks. And that's why he's able to make plays on the ball. And, I mean, oh, my Lord, he could go stride for stride with so many players. He's a really talented guy here. Love him.
And outside of that, there's not, great depth, which, again, we already talked about this team, that you're going to see the rest of the line, except for maybe inside linebacker. There's not a ton of great depth, right? And, again, that's just the consequence of being a young team who just kind of found their starting lineup.
Of course, right?
That's just going to deal with. So let's move on from this. Oh, do you want to mention anybody?
I did. Of course, Jonathan Owens is a name because
that is Simone Biles' husband.
Yeah, right. But Jalen Jones is someone that I'm not against. Like he could go out there, he could play a couple snaps, and he'll be fine, right? Yep. Him, I think Terrell Smith is fine. But for the most part, you got those starting 3, and it's not like you have overwhelming depth behind them, like you just said.
No.
I just want to throw those names out there.
So let's move on from the secondary and move to the front 7, starting with the inside linebackers. Again, very important in a 4-2. Very important in 4-2. And I remember in the free agency, they pay a ton of money for Terrell Edmonds. They pay a ton of money for TJ Edwards, and people are like, what are they doing? Eberflus's scheme is very dependent on his linebackers being athletic and knowing what they're doing.
Yeah.
This is a good linebacker.
There are very few, I would dare to say, linebacker, besides quarterback, is the toughest position at the NFL level. Currently, in the modern NFL, because of how much you're asked to do, despite weighing as much as you do. You're asked to, engage blockers. You're asked to defend the run, fill gaps, blitz. And then you're also asked to cover the Travis Kelce's and the Mark Andrews and the TJ Hawkinsons and the George Kittles and the Sam Laportas. And sometimes you're even asked to go on a slot receiver. Like, it is insane. That is remarkably difficult. And there are very, very few linebackers that could do it all well. The Bears got 2 of them. The Bears got 2 of the only linebackers in the sport that can play coverage, play in that middle zone, play it well, while also being good blitzers, being able to fit the run well, being able to clean up for their defensive line, sometimes getting blown out of their gaps. Both TJ Edwards and Tremaine Edmonds can do that well. Very well. And that is so rare.
And I want to talk about Tremaine Edmonds first, This is an athletic freak. He's 6'5", 250 pounds and can run with anybody.
Yeah.
I loved him coming out of college. We got to keep in mind, he's going to do his 6th NFL season. He is 26 years old. He was young coming out of college, and he just keeps developing. And he's so important in this defense because, Matt Eberflus likes his linebackers. He runs a lot. He runs Tampa, too. He runs cover, too. They have to carry receivers up the middle of the field. Tremaine Edmonds has the athleticism and the height and the length to do that. And you see him, and it's very important in this defense. So it's not only that. God, how big he is. He's bigger than some edge rushers in the NFL right now, man. Like, he is slamming gaps. He's fantastic. And then next to him, TJ Edwards, less of an athletic freak as Edmonds, but equally as just technically sound.
Listen, Edwards is going to play that middle zone when you're playing cover 1, when Edmonds is going man-to-man when you're playing cover 1. Like, that is how this works. Because Edwards has a good feel for coverage. It's just he isn't enough of an athlete to really play man on some of the players in the NFL because there's a lot of freaks in the NFL. Tremaine Edmonds can play man, but he can't play zone quite as well as Edwards. So it's almost like you got a guy for everything while both are really good. Okay?
Yeah.
And you'll mix it up because you could still trust Edwards in man. You could still trust Edmonds in zone. It's just they both specialize in a slightly different things there.
Right. And then when they want to go into their 4-3, which is what Eberflus, you know, again, that's kind of his base, but not really his base because he keeps having good nickels. But
Yeah.
Jack Sanborn is a good depth piece.
Lays
really
the wood.
Depth piece. Just
Tough
a run
guy.
defender, man.
Tough guy.
He's a Chicago Bears linebacker. When
Yep,
you think about
exactly.
The old days Chicago Bears linebackers,
Yeah, there you go.
That's Jack Sanborn.
He knocks people out, man. He's a tough guy. I mean, goal line package. Him and Noah Sewell. Noah Sewell is someone I want to mention. Really similar players. Two strong, big guys that just, once again, hit people and they fall backwards. It doesn't matter if it's Derrick Henry. It doesn't matter. When you get hit, you fall back.
Noah Sewell's almost 260 pounds at linebacker, man. Like, he's a big dude.
Big guy. And he plays tough. Both of these guys play tough. They are what you expect. When you're a 4-2 team that rotates occasionally into 4-3, you expect to have one of those guys kind of be a dedicated, like, run fitter. And that's what both of those guys do. Right? And, oh, my Lord, they're great at it. Then the defensive line.
There's a lot. I think there's a lot of reason to be excited about not only this year but the future of this defense.
Yes. I don't love the pass rush, but
Nope.
these Eberflus teams, right? Kind of these Gus Bradley teams always have been. All of these defensive disciples of Gus Bradley kind of come from this mentality of the front is to defend the run, and the secondary is to defend the pass, right? The linebackers, at least in the recent Gus Bradley defenses, became kind of a middle ground where you defend the run and play the pass. Very few guys can actually do that. They actually have two guys that can do it, like we just said. But then the defensive line, purely run defenders, except Montez Sweat, who could do both. And that's who I want to start with.
Yeah, Montez Sweat completely changed the trajectory of this defense last year. This was a bottom 20 unit in the NFL before week 8, and then the trade deadline happens, and they get Montez Sweat, and this was a top 5 unit in the NFL when he was on the field. What he does as not only a run defender, but as this team's really only great pass rusher, completely changed this defense. Again, as we said at the start, went from running a lot of zone because they couldn't run man with this pass rush to running a lot of man, and that was mixing it up, and that really changed the trajectory of this defense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like I said, that's because the rest of this defensive line is mainly run defenders. Like, that's what they're here to do. Montez Sweat added a little bit more pass rushing juice to this defensive line. With that said, that doesn't mean the other guys are bad, okay? I mean, Andrew Billings, what's he there to do? He's here to do the Patrick Sypher thing. The Patrick Sypher interior defensive line.
Tackle.
Yep, yeah. He is the Patrick Sypher defensive tackle. Fill your gap and stay there. Do not move. And man, does he play the Grover Stewart, the Vita Vea role so well. Not a great pass rusher, but that's not, like I said, that's not what he's there to do. Right.
But then you have DeMarcus Walker, who, again, he's kind of your Patrick Sypher defensive tackle, but as an edge rusher. He's an edge setter. He's sitting at that edge, and he's not going to move. Is he going to do a whole lot in the pass rushing game? Not really, but there's maybe some hope if you do want somebody there. But we'll get to him in a second. Yeah. I want to talk about Gervin Dexter. Mm-hmm. Gervin Dexter has a chance to really take this defense over the top. Gervin Dexter's an athletic freak coming out of college. I mean, this guy is 6'6", 6'5", 312, kind of that Chris Jones body of a player. You know what I mean? And has that athleticism. It's just, he has some of the weirdest college film you'll ever watch. He did not know when what a get off was.
Yeah, no,
the ball would be snapped and he'd still be on the ground. It
was really interesting, but in the NFL they taught him how football works.
Yes, they taught him how football works, and he really got better as the season went along. Mm-hmm. This could be a game changer along the defensive line. This kind of athlete and player we're dealing with Gervin.
And if he isn't, Zach Pickens was really good as a rookie too.
Yes, he was.
Really good. So they have a nice rotation on the interior, and then we're about to get to that edge, rotation, because I know who you're going to talk about here. Mm-hmm. Give us that Austin Booker rant. Why don't you?
Austin Booker is somebody who, if he waited till next season to come out of the draft, he might have been a first-round pick. Like that. That is something. He came out as a very young, raw, like hadn't played a lot of football prospect, and he went in the fifth because of it. He's looked really good. At like my comp for Austin Booker. Now listen to the whole statement before we overreact here. My comp for Austin Booker was Max Crosby coming out of college. When Max Crosby was on the smaller side coming out of college, he needed to put on weight, but just relentless motor, long condor wingspan. That's what Booker was coming out of college. Mm-hmm. You see that motor in these preseason games, man. He has 3.5 sacks in 2 games. He had 2.5 against the Bills last week. He's really nuanced as a pass rusher for how young he is. Really good use of his hands. Nice bend. The thing is, this is a third down pass rusher as of right now. Mm-hmm. Because he's on this, you can't play a 4-3 defensive end at 240 pounds. Correct. You just can't. It's too small. So he's a pass rush specialist as of right now. But we're talking, and this is what I mean by the future. We're talking if they can get this guy on 15 more pounds, you might have a player alongside Montez Sweat on the edge. I'm a big Booker guy, as you can tell. I've been impressed with him this preseason, which says a lot because if this team can get, which we're expecting, they're going to play the run hard, get these teams in the third and long. If you can get an Austin Booker and a Montez Sweat off the edge and it be effective, and Gervin Dexter in the middle, good luck.
Yeah.
Really good luck.
Exactly. I completely agree. And, I mean, he is both of our defensive rookie of the year, right? Because, first off, there aren't many options. But
I don't think there's another option.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Also, he's a good player. He's a good rotational guy who has the ability to become a stud. Defensive player of the year is a really interesting one. So who do you have here?
My defensive player of the year, I am going to go with I'm really hung up here, but I think I am gonna go with Montez Sweat as much as like Jalen Johnson's really good. Mm-hmm. Montez Sweat, we're gonna get to see him in a full season with this defense. Mm-hmm. He should be an All-Pro. That's what I'm expecting from Montez Sweat. Really.
Yeah, there you go. Because here's the thing too, Montez Sweat. We talk about him so much as a pass rusher because that's what he adds to this defense that they didn't have before him. But he's an even better run defender.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
And I think that's what people undermined about him because he talked about DeMarcus Walker as someone that could really seal the edge. He does that and then more. He crunches the edge down, right? I mean, very, very tough physical player that just dominates from the edge. My defensive player of the year is Jalen Johnson, though, because that secondary is so good and he is the key guy, right? He's the one that goes on the Tyreek Hills, goes on the Justin Jeffersons, goes on the best receivers in the NFL and shuts them down. He's a stud. Now we get to special teams. This is another part that isn't overly exciting. I think Santos is a fine kicker.
I wouldn't say that. I want Torrey Taylor. If you watched any Iowa film last year, Torrey Taylor might have been the best offensive player on that team. Okay.
Oh, you think Torrey Taylor is going to go ahead and? Yeah.
Torrey Taylor's a good punter, man. He's a good punter. Mm-hmm. He won games for Iowa, quite literally, because the offense couldn't do anything, so he kept having to punt the ball far.
For some reason, I thought that you were going to say Torrey Taylor was going to replace Santos.
No. You were just saying that it wasn't a super exciting unit. I'm like, no, I am excited to see.
Oh, okay. I thought that you said that after I said the thing about Santos, so I thought that you said Torrey Taylor was going to come in and become the kicker.
No. Santos is a fine kicker. Yeah. Torrey Taylor, again, if you watched him at Iowa, he literally won games for this team.
Yeah. No, he's an exciting rookie. He is an exciting rookie. I think their punt team is going to be nice. Pair that with a really good defense, and you have the winner of the field position battle every game.
Yes, absolutely.
Torrey Taylor is a really bright spot for them, absolutely. Then we got a group of returners that I know Velus Jones is supposed to be a special teams specialist. I feel like there's gadget receivers that are better at it than him.
I think Tyler Scott's probably a better returner.
Yeah, exactly. And it's you drafted this guy to be a Devin Hester type of guy, and he isn't even close. Not even close.
They're trying to get him to take the Cordero Patterson career path right now.
Yeah.
We'll see if that works. I
They
doubt it.
drafted him in round 3 just to be a special teamer, and he's kind of like all right.
Yeah, he's all right at returning.
Yeah, but it's okay because they have other guys. Like you just said, they have Tyler Scott, who is good.
DeAndre
right?
Carter can do it.
DeAndre Carter and Travis Homer, of course, can do it. Right? They have a group of guys that can do it. Fine. None of them are studs, but they're fine. Right?
I will say, it sucks because I don't think they will just because they have paid him so much money. He's going to get a lot of reps in the running back room, but I'd love to see DeAndre Swift as a returner with these new rules, man.
I would too. I agree.
I think he'd be fantastic.
I definitely agree. I absolutely agree. I hope we've had this conversation before, but I really hope there's some teams that look at it and they see how impactful these special teams plays can be, and they put like their best guys out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think it'll happen during playoffs, but I don't think it'll happen much during regular season, sadly. But I would like to see DeAndre Swift go out there. Maybe DeAndre Swift gets outperformed by Roshan Johnson. They're like, you know what? We want to get our money's worth. DeAndre Swift, go out there. Right? Yeah. Like, maybe. That's a very real possibility. Then in terms of other guys, they don't have like a specialist on special teams. They don't have like someone like a Matthew Slater or someone like that. Or even like a Kershaw from the Steelers, right? They don't, or Killebrew, sorry. They don't have anyone really like that. But I think Noah Sewell will be a really fun special teamer to watch because he's just a big guy who can run. Kari will definitely have a role. I like Elijah Hicks as a potential contributor. Jonathan Owens will probably go out there too. Don't worry, you Simone Biles fans. There's guys that'll go out there, and I think they'll be fine. But like I said, it's not a really exciting room. Besides Tory Taylor, who I do definitely agree, like he could be fun. But now we get into the predictions. What is your floor for this team that? You know, I think the schedule is kind of
the schedule's rough.
Yeah,
the schedule is rough.
Yeah, it makes it tough for them.
My floor is 7-10.
Same thing here. However, we did talk about how this team can really be tip of the creme de la creme in a lot of areas, and because of that, even with their tough schedule, 13-4 I have as the ceiling.
Mine was 12-5, but no, like this, they can do it, man.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's get into this.
What was your prediction?
My prediction's 9-8.
9-8. I had 10-7.
I think they're 9-8, and I think they make the playoffs. I think they make the playoffs at 9-8.
I had 10-7. So now let's look at the schedule, right?
This is a brutal first 4 weeks, by the way. This is brutal.
They have tougher stretches.
They do, but like to start the year. Tennessee's not a gimme, dude. Tennessee is good secondary. Mm-hmm. Against a rookie quarterback, it's going to be tough.
And it's not like they're a great running team.
No, this is like this team can do it. And this
I just don't know what Levis could do against his defense.
We don't know yet. Absolutely. We'll have to see. But it's really right now, like which defense is going to trick the quarterback into doing the most. I would still lean the Bears, but this is not a gimme. This Tennessee game.
Listen, the Bears are gonna win. The Bears are gonna win the field position battle in every game. Like I really feel that good about it because of how good that defense is with that punter, like you said. I'm leaning the Bears because I don't think Tennessee's gonna be able to make up for their lack of good field position. Without a doubt.
All right. And from there, they go to play the Texans at the Texans. Texans kill them.
Yeah.
They go to play the Colts. I'd lean the Colts. I think this is an offensive line that can play against this defensive line. I think the receivers can play against these corners.
Caleb has the arm to go against this cover 3 heavy Gus Bradley team.
Absolutely does.
And let me tell you right now, Kenny Moore versus Keenan Allen is going to be fun.
Yes.
That's going to be fun. But like I said, Keenan Allen against zone coverage, like we know how that goes, man.
This team also has DeForest Buckner, and they don't have the offensive lineman.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I'm going Chicago. I am. I think you're right. I could see it being a really fun game, but I'm going Chicago.
I'm going with the Colts. But then we go to Rams at the Bears. I feel comfortable saying the Rams beat them.
Yeah. Yeah, this could
be
it's
not going to be some blowout.
Yeah.
I don't think
it should be a very zone-heavy team again, so maybe Caleb could do some damage. But at the same time, How much do you trust? I mean, they can stop Kupp and Nakua.
They can. I also think we'll get to the Rams soon. This Rams offensive line running the ball is going to be.
Really that's fair. That's fair.
It's going to be
really good. Yeah, but they got some linebackers that could do it. I don't know. I think it's a good matchup for Chicago. That's all I'm trying to say. I think there's some things that work in Chicago's favor that you can't say about other teams going against the Rams.
Okay. So not a blowout. I would probably lean the Rams, but there's definitely a world where the Bears can beat them. Then you got the Panthers. I feel comfortable saying the Bears beat them. I don't know what Bryce Young's going to do against this defense.
Yeah, that's true. Like no one's going to be able to get separation. No.
Jags against the Bears. This is kind of the same thing. I don't think those receivers are really going to be able to do much.
It is in London.
Which could, this is the Jags' home field, essentially. The Jags always play in London. Could be a thing. We'll see. I feel comfortable saying the Bears, though.
Yeah. But I also think the London thing throws a wrench in a lot of this. Like, rookie quarterback in London, what do you see, right? Then you get a bye, and then they play against Washington. Easiest win on their schedule. Easiest game on their schedule.
Will have 4 sacks.
Yeah. Well, it's that, and then, like I said, off a bye week, right? That should be the easiest game on their schedule, without a doubt. But then they go into Arizona.
So, funny enough, this game ends up being my tiebreaker for the 7th seed in the NFC. And I have the Bears winning it. So this was.
That's devastating. The Cardinals' agenda. Oh,
dude,
no.
You know how bad I want it? I kept looking at games and being like, what game can I give to the Cardinals, please? But it's really just comes down. I don't know how this defense stops this offense. Like, I don't. These receivers in the zone, the quarters that they play, even the match court, I don't know how this Cardinals team's going to stop them. I really don't. I think this line.
But don't you think the run game for Arizona might be able to do some damage?
Sure could. But again, as we talked about, it's a good run defending team. This is a good run defending team. That's true. Right? Like this is it. I kept looking at it and I'm like, I kind of have to go Chicago.
I think Chicago matches up well here. They do. Yes. They do. Then we got the Patriots.
I feel very comfortable saying the Bears.
But young quarterback against Gerard Mayo.
But Drake May against how about this? Jalen Polk against Jalen Johnson.
Yeah, this is true. Man. This is true. Yeah, I could see it being a low-scoring affair. It depends on what Gerard Mayo is.
Then we got Packers at the Bears. I think they split. However, I think the Packers take this game because the Packers coming off a bye.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay. That's completely fair to say. I also think they have listen, the Packers design a lot of cool stuff, okay? And in order to prepare for this recording and another recording we're going to be doing really soon, I watched the Bears and Packers, games from last year on the All-22. I really dove deep into those. And it's super interesting watching how this defense matches up against Green Bay. Green Bay does some creative stuff, though, man. And I think that is something that Eberflus, who runs a defense that is obviously really good, but it isn't great at accounting for all these wrinkles, I think that's a big advantage towards Green Bay. If I were to say one team that wins both matchups, I would say Green Bay.
Me too. Then we have Vikings-Bears. I think the Bears win both matchups. I don't think this secondary is going to hold up well at all against these receivers. I understand it's Brian Flores against a rookie quarterback. I get it. I do.
Yeah.
I don't really care. These receivers are about to dominate Shaq Griffin. I'm sorry. Shaq Griffin's not. It's not.
No, I get it. I get it.
Yeah.
I love how you say I'm sorry because every attack on the Vikings is an attack on me. But I mean, I get it. But at the same time, listen, Jalen Johnson's really good. Justin Jefferson's still Justin Jefferson.
Yes. But we also have to say,
they got the personnel to match them. They
have the personnel to match them. We don't know how this quarterback room is going to be. And this is a good defense, man. This is a really good defense.
I probably agree in saying the Bears win both. I think the Bears match up really well.
Especially later in the season. If this was earlier game in the season, Brian Flores early in the season against a rookie quarterback, I'd feel much better about it. Mm-hmm. This is week 12.
But I also just feel really good about how Chicago matches up against that offense. I do.
Yes.
Right? You got T.J. Hawkinson shut down by Tremaine Edmonds, right?
Yep.
Like, they just have... They're one of the few teams that have the Jimmies and Joes to counter the Vikings' Jimmies and Joes, right?
Right.
Like, that's the reality here. Then the Lions. The Lions are going to be a force, man.
I think they're going to split. I think they're going to split. I think they're going to... I will say this. They're going to be a force. Justin Fields almost beat them twice last year. All right?
Yeah.
That's
true.
Did.
That's true.
I
And
think
then
the
Kyler Gordon on Amon-Ra. That's going to be fun.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be fun.
I think the Lions take theirs at home, and I think the Bears take theirs at home. That's my prediction.
Well, you're right in saying that the Bears had their number last year. Like, that's an objective truth.
Yeah. But I will say this: if there was a team to win both games, I do feel very comfortable saying it's the Lions. Like,
I disagree.
Really?
I disagree. I think if one team were to win both, I would probably say Chicago.
Okay.
Because of how that matchup went last year, right? And what's changed? I'm telling you what's changed. Chicago's gotten a lot better, right? And yeah, Detroit got better in the secondary, but that wasn't why those games were close. Not their secondary, right? Like, it was close because of what Chicago was doing defensively and how they screwed up Jared Goff. What if they just do that stuff again, right? Like,
Totally.
Yeah. But then we got San Fran in San Fran.
I feel pretty okay saying San Fran here.
Yeah.
I also, little spoiler for the 49ers video, I also think 49ers are going to be playing for a playoff spot at this point in the season. I think they're going to be struggling a little bit, and I think they're going to be like, we need to go win some games to make the playoffs. So.
Mm-hmm. Then we talked about the Vikings. We talked about Detroit. Then Seattle.
I think Seattle's going to win this game.
I agree.
I think this is Mike McDonald late in the season.
I got to say this right now.
This might be Caleb's worst game of the year.
The Bears got lucky. They didn't have... I know there's not many breaks they called on the schedule, but they only have to face off against one McDonald disciple the entire year. And this is it. Right? With the rookie quarterback, that's a lucky break.
Yes.
You know? And then Green Bay, again, we talked about that. But it being the end of the season, how do you think that affects us?
I think the Bears are going to be fine for a playoff spot, and I think the Packers will have one, and I think the Packers are still going to be like, we want to keep you away.
Yeah.
But, we don't want to let you in, but it's going to be a competitive game. I still think the Bears sneak in the playoffs to the 7th seed.
All right. So that is all for this episode. I hope you all enjoyed. If you want more of my content, definitely check out my channel down below. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Feel free to subscribe if you want, to see more of my content. And then keep in mind that I post every other episode. This is number 11. Number 10 is going to go up on Dean's channel. So definitely check that out. The link is in the description. I'll see you all again next time.